Hello and welcome back to Pandemic Playground with Dave. So today we have another experiment slash concept build for you guys, and that is making elevator systems with hinges. Alright, so you guys seen us use hinges as ropes or chains or whatever you may call it. So I decided to make an elevator using that hinge rope or chain type of system. There's a very similar one that we've done in the past in our co-op series, which is using blast doors on the side to keep it level on a rotor to collect and turn this whole chain system here or hinges. And we have this bit of a wheel here to kind of keep it on track of where it is, and it goes straight down all the way to the bottom to this crazy looking elevator system. And it's only 2x1 rectangular pattern, but it was just a random design that I just kind of put together as a test. But you can obviously extend this out a lot more so that you cover the back pieces or the innards of the elevator system. But this is just a concept, so I just built it as is to see if it works. And as you saw, it completely does work. A little bit wobbly, but not too bad. So the system is comprised of a lot of mechanisms here. So in the back here of the elevator system is a bit of wheels and rotors. You see the rotors here, wheels. This is just to kind of keep it all on track, because if you don't use it, it's going to sway back and forth a lot. As you see, it's already swaying a little bit in the hinges, and it might cause some clang or some issues, which we're going to talk about in a second over there. The landing gears is again also keep on track, because for some reason this gets a little bit wobbly and gets stuck sometimes with the wheels and rotors, which is an elevator system we've previously done before as well, wheels and rotors. But the landing gear helped us kind of keep on track, and also helps us stop it whenever it hits the necessary points. So that's where the sensor comes along. So the sensor here is actually sensing blocks that I put on the side. So once it hits the sensor, it's going to stop the rotation of the rotor on top that's controlling the hinge, or the hinge chain or hinge rope or whatever the case is. And once we bring it up, we're going to go to the second floor, which that's where we encounter a bit of an issue that we had to resolve. So the way I set this up is pretty much if I hit up, it's going to shut the door on us, and it's going to go up immediately. So just for the sake of it, I'm going outside and show you what's going on here. So as you see here, the rotor, as you've probably seen before as well, it's going to collect and turn and spin. So it's going to bring up the hinge rope or hinge chain. This here is just to keep it on track. So it's a nifty little system that I thought about using this kind of tire system, just so it doesn't dangle just on that piece. That kind of helps. I could put a lot more on the sides, I believe, to keep it from wobbling too much. But here, it's coming up slowly, and the encounter piece that I had here is basically, it doesn't necessarily reach the platform too well. So I had to alter it a bit by making a piston system to extend the platform forward, so that way we can easily go in and out of the system here. As you see here, it's not completely flush. It's a little too close to the block itself. You could probably design it some other way to do it, but I just decided to try this little catwalk piston style. And of course that is done by the sensor down here. Once it detects this platform, it's going to extend. And once it's out of this platform or that plate over there, it's gonna retract. So if I were to press down on this guy here, once the system's gone, this piston goes back. So that was another piece to it. But the elevator itself, as you see, all these wheels are kind of spinning a little bit just to keep everything on track, and it works really well, I gotta say. So a nifty little random elevator system that I put together. And obviously it's a bit slow because I don't want to increase it too fast. If I do too fast, there's a chance that it's going to clang up or crash or whatever the case is. As you see here, it's extremely slow, but once it hits the bottom, it's going to lock one of the landing gears or both of them, whichever one. And it's not always completely straight as well, as you see right there. But you still can easily go in and out of it without any issues. So that was the ideal part of it. So I first experimented with using the small grid versions of these hinge ropes or chains. So it kind of works a bit, but it wiggles a little too much and causes a little bit more clang than I would like. So I initially played around with it and completely destroyed the whole system. So I tried again and tried to do a double hinge system, a double rotor hinge rope system, where both sides will be connected to an elevator. However, when putting it together, it just kind of just randomly looped around itself into kind of almost like a knot. So that it was the biggest problem I was experiencing with the smaller hinge rope chains and whatnot with this elevator system. It can be done, to be honest, but the way I was doing it just caused a lot of issues and clangs. I decided to walk away from this one and make the larger grid version of it, and it works really, really well. So if you want to take a look inside, we hit the up button, which is this one, and it's a nice windowed area, so you can check out the whole entire scenery, as you see here. You can probably keep the door open as well, so you kind of see what's going on. But if we close the door, you can see the mechanisms working. You see the side view on both sides, which is pretty cool. And once we get to the very top, it's gonna do everything automatically. We're approaching the second floor. You see it's a bit wobbly, but you hear the sensors and everything is working perfectly fine, where it won't fall off in that sense, and everything is stopped. Alright, so if we want to test this thing to go down a lot faster, we can do that. So we can do the rotor here, which is the main one. So we initially put it to just on the timer block to increase it by 3 RPMs. So we can increase this by double that and do 6 RPMs, or maybe even 10. Let's just say 10 RPMs, right? Alright, so first things first, we do need to kind of remove all this and retract everything. So let me get onto this thing here. Reverse this guy. It might reverse back, actually. Nope. Okay, so let's unlock the landing gear. Alright, that's unlocked. It just kind of bounced up a bit, which is a little scary. But alright, I think the sensor is gonna kind of mess with this a bit. But let's see how it goes. Okay, so we do a velocity of -10 to go down. That is quite fast. And again, it might just break. I'm not sure. -10 speed a lot faster. It might... Oh, it does catch a little bit, so that's a good thing. And will it stop? Not necessarily, so I'm not sure. I think it bounced and caught the sensor a little too much, so that's why it's going back up. I don't believe it's gonna stop at all in this case because it's too bouncy. Let's see. Ooh. And now it's going back down, and it's censoring something, which is that probably. So we're not locked in. That's an interesting piece to it. We're not locked in because, oh, you know what? That's what happened. Because the way it's set up, it's reversed the wrong way, and it collected it this way instead of the opposite way that I want it to go. So that's why when hit down and it didn't detect and lock in, it continues spinning the opposite way. That's what it brought it back up. So that's where you're gonna run into issues with this system if you don't stop it, or if you don't stop it in time. So increase it too fast, definitely not an ideal thing to do. So I think I'm gonna have to release this thing, and it is stuck. So it must be stuck on a block somewhere, and it might be this one here. If I remove, there you go. So that's gonna fix that a little bit. Hopefully. Let it drop a bit more. And it's not dropping, so that's an issue. Let's just continue to release some more roping. There you go, now it's dropping. Okay, so that kind of fixes that. I can increase this a little bit more. So 6 RPMs, 9 RPMs, 12 RPMs. It does drop fairly quickly, and it's actually working out okay. But we don't want to do it too fast because it's going to break something eventually. So I need to fix this rope catching. It needs to wrap the other way back up or leave it at 0 once it hits the bottom. Then let me just drop it down to the bottom. Okay, so that's locked. Okay, perfect. So that's fixed in some ways. So here, we go back in here, because this is just telling it to reverse anyways, to be honest. So that's how the system works. So I've hit the trigger now. It's going to go up, and it's going to wrap the right way around. Yep, the clockwise version is the right way. So before, because it didn't stop it, and the sensor told it to reset and also reverse at the same time, because it bounced and hit the sensor a couple of times, it decided to mess around with it a bit. But this seems to be working quite okay. Alright, if you care for all of the setup of the system, so once again, it's all done by sensors, and each sensor is actually run by timing blocks. So for each and every sensor, there's a timing block for it. So sensor top, which is the top one up here, this sensor up there, and a sensor second floor, which is this sensor here on this platform, they all run into, or they all connect and tell a timing block to run. So this one's the sensor top for a timing block. This one is the second floor one. So you'll see the sensor top set up action. Once it sensors a block, it is going to reset the velocity, it's going to lock the landing gear, and it's going to open the door. So that is what happens right here. Once it reaches the top, when it senses this block here, that's going to lock. It's going to reset the velocity to 0 for the RPMs on the rotor up there, and it's going to open the door. So that's how that works. And once we go into the system and press down on there, it's gonna be this one here and tell it to decrease the velocity, unlock the landing gear, and close the door. That's the button inside the elevator system right here, down. I should really write down and up here, but it is what it is. The biggest issue that you're gonna run into is if you hit up when you're supposed to go down, it will keep going up. So you don't necessarily want that. So there's a bit of a flaw into the system, obviously. But if you're careful with it, you should be perfectly fine. You can probably make a sensor on top somewhere to say, once it detects something up here, cut it. So reset the block itself, or reset the rotor itself, so that way you have a safeguard there. But yeah, so once you hit down, it's going to close the door, reverse the velocity to go downwards, and unlock that landing gear. So once we go to the very bottom, it is actually going to do the same thing, same timing block. It's going to say reset the velocity, open the door, and lock that gear down here. So that's pretty much the setup for that. Simple enough in this case. It was just an interesting concept with the hinge rope / chain mechanism. So I had to try it. Again, bit wobbly of a system, but it seems to work out not too bad. Right, so if you did enjoy this build concept, this experiment, please hit that thumbs up and like the video. If you haven't done so already, consider subscribing to the channel, hit that notification bell to be alerted of upcoming videos. Feel free to drop a comment down below. And of course, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.